Hello friends, I'm Dr. Rajendra Thigle and you're watching to my channel Edu Support. I welcome you all to Edu Support. So my dear friends, we started the discussions regarding the need of analysis of teaching or the need of analysis of pedagogy. So in that particular episode, in the last episode, we discussed about the two parts. One is the why exactly we are analyzing it, what is the need of analyzing it. So one need is the you can find out the definitely different kinds of elements. Second thing is that if you are knowing the elements, then definitely you are going to work out on that particular thing and you will enhance the process of teaching. So that is what the need of analysis of teaching. Third thing which I would like to add in it in that is particularly analysis is a process of learning. There are two processes of learning, analysis and synthesis. So these are the two processes which are complementary to one another. So the students can learn by means of analysis, by making the parts from the whole, and definitely after that again he is constructing the things, again he is joining the things in the synthesis and creating certain new kinds of things. So analysis is nothing but to learn the things, the complicated things particularly, or the knowledge which is there in front of you in the complex form. Yes, definitely you can analyze it into different points and then you can be able to learn it properly by connecting them, by correlating them, by relating them, by contrasting them, or whether there is a kind of connection or not particularly. And then you can construct it in different manner. That is what we can call it as synthesis. So my dear friends, now we'll focus on the analysis of teaching. There are various elements of teaching as far as the definition of evaluation is concerned. Particularly you will find out three elements. It is the triangle of evaluation, you can call it as. This particularly symbolic picture is the triangle of teaching process. So at one of the vertex you will get the objectives. On the second vertex you will get the learning experiences or teaching methods, and in the third vertex you will get the evaluation tools. My dear friends, in both the ends, particularly for example objectives and learning experiences, you will find that it is a reversible kind of thing, reversible kind of processes. So particularly if you have jotted down certain objectives, if certain objectives are there in your mind, particularly you have predetermined certain goals, aims, objectives, targets, learning outcomes, or particularly, or behavioral outcomes you can call it as, definitely, then to achieve those things, to achieve those objectives, you are providing certain learning experiences to the students, to the classroom. So here, vice versa, objectives are based on the learning experiences and learning experiences are based on the objectives. Okay, they are very much related or correlated, you can call it as. If your objectives are, for example, if you want to teach a child to draw a particular diagram, for example, circulation of blood or blood circulation, then at that time definitely you are going to draw a diagram in front of students in the classroom. That is what your learning experience is. That is what you're particularly planning, you can call it as. So as far as the objectives are concerned, particularly you are framing your learning activities, your teaching activities of whatever you are going to do in the classroom. Second thing is that, for example, if you want to just to teach your child, to let him know or let them know about the blood circulation only, then definitely he will use the chart, he will use the diagram in the teaching learning process. So in the first example, what we jotted down, particularly the teacher wants to teach the children the how to draw the figure, how to draw the diagram, how to label neat correctly, and correct, very neat diagram, very proportionate diagram. So he wanted to acquire that kind of skills, particularly in their children. That is why the learning experiences, they are definitely, they are a bit different, particularly. So the same thing is here. If you are comparing learning experiences and evaluation tools, then definitely they are, we can say there is reversible kind of process. It is reversible. It is two-way process. So if you are giving such kinds of experiences to the children, then definitely your teaching evaluation tool will be different. For example, if your objective is to teach a child to sketch and label neat correct diagram of blood circulation, then you will draw the figure in front of them in the classroom. That is your learning experience, and in the examination you will ask the question based on that. Draw a neat label diagram of blood circulation. So these three things will be there in the, you can say, in a proper path, particularly. And the same thing, evaluation tools and objectives. If you are comparing both these things, then the process between them is bi-directional, you can call it as, or it is reversible kind of. So definitely if your objectives are like that, then you will definitely test them, particularly by means of different kinds of evaluation tools. Okay, so particularly these are the three elements as far as the evaluation process is concerned. So teaching consists of objectives, learning experiences, and evaluation tools. Now, sometimes we are adding definitely content in that particular process, content of the subject. Okay, now here we are asking questions, different kinds of WH questions before entering into the class. For example, why am I going into the class? So that is nothing but the objectives. If your aim is like this, if your goals are like this, if your objectives are like this, if your instant objectives are like this, or if your classroom objectives are like this, then the question of why can be answered in this particular fashion. How am I going to teach them? That comes under the learning experiences or teaching methods, teaching tools, teaching techniques, teaching strategies, teaching approaches, teaching models. So different kinds of things. So if you are deciding that why am I going to the class, then how am I going to achieve those objectives is the next this thing. So particularly in between that, very important thing is this content. What am I going to teach them in the class? For example, why? Okay. What means exactly what content, what message I want to transfer from my end to the students. That is what particularly content. What am I going to teach them in the classroom so that I'll achieve the objectives, isn't it? Now, why we are focusing on each and every element, particularly? See, though your objectives are very good, very high-fi objectives you have jotted down, but if the students in front of you are of not that particular level, they are not having that much previous knowledge or caliber, or the content which you have chosen to achieve those objectives, particularly it is very hard, it is very difficult, it is particularly out of their, you can say, reach exactly. So that will not be, going to help them at the end of the day. That will not be helpful to them, isn't it? That's why objectives, then what should I teach in the class? What should be my message as far as their age factor is concerned, their intellect level is concerned, particularly their language proficiencies are concerned, okay, their this thing intellectual this, levels, whatever we are calling it, always higher order thinking skills, HOTS, isn't it? So we have to judge all those things right from their previous knowledge and particularly their levels. Okay, then learning experiences, how? Okay, and how am I going to evaluate them? How am I going to test them? How am I going to measure them? Isn't it? That is what that comes under the evaluation tools and evaluation techniques. Okay, so these are basically four elements, you can call it as roughly. There are n number of things as far as these elements and sub elements are concerned, particularly. There are n number of things. Basically, we are going to, focus on only one at a time. Today, we are going to focus on the objectives only. Now, these objectives are given by Dr. Benjamin Bloom. So this is called as Bloom's taxonomy. So Dr. Benjamin Bloom has given us this particular taxonomy in 1956. Okay, and particularly he has, categorized it into, as far as this taxonomy is concerned, taxonomy is nothing but the classification, it is nothing but the categorization, and this categorization is in three particular domains: cognitive domain, affective domain, and psychomotor domain. So basically these domains, these objectives, actually these objectives are called as behavioral objectives. Now why these are called as behavioral objectives? Because we can test, we can check, we can measure the behavior of a particular student. So as far as the definition of education is concerned, particularly one of the definitions is saying about the, whenever there is a change in due to the learning process, change in the behavior, that is what nothing but the behaviorism, change in the behavior due to the learning process, isn't it? So that is what we are explaining this definition as far as this education is concerned. Okay, so this is behavioral kind of thing. Now, see, if somebody is saying that yes, I am understanding, I am getting it. So how could you know that the person in front of you is understanding? He is knowing something, he is understanding something, he is getting something. How can you know that? So that is nothing but you can see the behavior of the student, particularly behavior of the letter, because particularly what we are expecting that there must be change in the student, isn't it? Okay, so he has divided the things into three parts, three domains: cognitive domain, affective domain, and psychomotor domain. Now, cognitive domain is related to intellect, is related to head, it is related to brains, you can call it as, and that's why we have to focus on the content, we have to focus on the knowledge, understanding, application, like that. So now this particularly cognitive domain, yes, if you're just learning it in detail later on, you will find it out that Now it is converted into verb forms. Just now I told you knowledge, understanding, application, so analysis, synthesis, and evaluations, all those things are there. Okay, let it be. So again, in the next slide, we'll definitely talk about the different, parts of classes of or steps of that, or the hierarchies of that particular cognitive domain. Okay, next one is the affective domain. Affective domain is related to emotions or feelings, particularly. It is related to your heart. Okay, and third one is the what we are expecting the development of all those things. Cognitive domain development, you can call it affective domain development, and psychomotor domain development, like that. So psychomotor is related to the physical activities, particularly skills, etc. Later on, we'll definitely discuss on that. Now, this cognitive domain, we are talking about the behavioral objectives. They are, classified into again two roughly as classroom objectives or instant objectives, and second one is the long-term goals or long-term objectives. Now, here you're just you can watch these six things: knowledge, understanding, or comprehension, you can call it as, then application, analysis, synthesis, evaluation. Out of these six, first three are the classroom objectives, and later three on are, or particularly, they are the long-term goals or long-term objectives. For example, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Now, why am I telling you all these things? Because, see, whenever you are entering into the class and you are focusing on one element, that is objective, then you have to decide the objectives. So, as far as this age factor is concerned, as far as the content of that particular standard syllabus or curriculum of that standard is concerned, philosophy is concerned, their level, their developmental stages, particularly their grasping powers and all, their understanding level. Okay, so all these things we are considering, and then only we are jotting down those objectives. Why am I going into the class? Okay, and see, if you are specifically writing down it into knowledge, comprehension, and application, so these are nothing but the cognitive domain kind of thing. Now, what is knowledge particularly? Now, knowledge is the noun form, comprehension is the noun form, and application, analysis, synthesis, evaluation, these are the noun forms. But understanding is the verb form. Okay. Now, in 2000, from 2001, we are writing down these things in the verb form. As the world is changing, the styles are changing, the fashions are changing, and definitely now everyone is mostly talking about in the verb forms. Okay, so no, knowledge is nothing but the knowing. Knowing means what? I am knowing it means I can recognize it. I am recognizing. I am recalling. Okay, these are the things which you can definitely observe, you can measure, and that is why the objectives are and its specifications are writing in this fashion, particularly pupil tells the definition of dash dash dash, pupil states the definition of dash dash dash, like that. So you if the pupil means singular, singular always, not class, not all pupils, not they. Okay, it is only he or she, singular. Each and every student should show the change in behavior. That is why we are writing down it in the singular form. We are not writing it in the future tense. We are writing it in the present tense because we are asking questions. We are just getting the answers of those particular things. That's why we are writing it in the present tense form, simple present tense form, and that is why we are writing he tells or she tells or he states or she states, like that. So tells, states, describes, narrates, all these things that comes under the knowledge, and particularly the person or the pupil is recognizing certain things, so that is the primary level. If he is understanding something, he is recalling something, that is secondary stage. So in knowledge only you can get the two kinds of things. That is what recognition and recalling, or recognizing and recalling. So if the things are there in front of you and he is recognizing, yes, that is the first stage, you can call it as. If the things are not in front of you and if he is trying to recall it, and yes, he is or she is recalling it, then it is little bit higher order kind of thing, you can call it as. And then understanding, for example, if you have taught the definition of root or definition of stem, and then definitely you are asking questions based on that. What are the elements of this root or roots? What are the elements of stem? Okay, what are the characteristics of stem, or what are the characteristics of root? What are the examples of root? Okay, what are the types of root? Okay, so based on that, if you have taught them different things, and at that time if you're asking such questions, then he has to deal with that knowledge. He has to analyze it into different things, and then definitely we can call it as, yes, he understood the concept of root, or he understood the definition of stem. Like that you can definitely judge. Then later part is application. The knowledge which he has gained, or the knowledge which he has acquired particularly, and he can use it in different in situation or in a new environment out of the classroom, then that is called as application. Okay, the later part, analysis, synthesis, evaluation, these are the higher order thinking skills. Definitely we can focus all those things, objectives, then domains, different kinds of domains in different episodes. But mind well, what have we learned right now is the why should we focus on different elements. Out of that we have focused on one element, that is what objectives. And if your objectives are clear before entering into the class, then definitely you will enhance your teaching learning process, and that will be definitely fruitful. So thank you so much. Definitely we'll see you in the next episode.